All right, we're here again with Little Miss Sunny, BJJ Fanatics, and we're gonna have a good old time today, right? You just get to lay down, fall asleep. 100% she falls asleep while I have my legs over her. She's like, oh, you're so warm, body's so, she's just gonna be unconscious. We're gonna get like 12 hours into this and she's just gonna be dead. So we're going into some arm bars today. Now, you've seen a lot of arm bar setups. I'm pretty sure Enter the System with John's instructional, and in a lot of my instructionals, my mouth instructional, closed guard, you've seen arm bar setups. But I really haven't focused on the different types of arm bars and going into proper finishing mechanics and separating grips on these Jujikatame positions. So today we're not going to focus too much on setups. We're going to focus rather on looking at the different types of jujis, the different defensive grips and escapes your partner can look at, because we did obviously escapes for jujis. And then we're going to look at going into jujis from top position, jujis from bottom position, and really look at and break down the finishing mechanics and some defensive sequences and counters that we can look at to go in and actually break someone's arm. All right, so now we're going to look at the two different types of jujis, and the reason why I separate these into two different categories is because the central problems, which we're going to look at in a second, are different. So understand that there are top Jujikatames and bottom Jujikatames. Top Jujikatames being in situations where I am physically on top of my partner, whether I set it up from side control, mount, the back, whatever the case is, or from here we go in, we set up our juji, and we fall, and we set it up from top position, and we can go and start finishing our partner. So a situation where I'm physically on top of my partner's on the floor, and we have to hold our partner down in these positions. And then we have bottom jujis, of course, where we can go in, and we either get stacked from a top juji, and she converts it to a bottom juji, or now she can stack me and look to go into defensive posture. Or from here, we set it up from bottom position, and now we actually physically go from bottom position into a bottom juji, where now we can go in and start to finish our partner. Or we can convert it to a top juji, where we spin through or sit our partner down, and then we make situations where I sit my partner into bottom juji or into a top jujis here, where I'm back on top of my partner, and then we can go into finishes. So we have to be able to differentiate between top juji and bottom juji, because the problems presented by our partner and the way that we're going to finish is very different from either top or bottom juji. All right, so now we're going to look at the central problems associated with a top juji and a bottom juji. And you have to be able to differentiate these two, because the central problems are going to give you two different ways of attacking from these positions. When I'm in a top juji, there are many problems, but the central problem I'm looking at is ways to keep my partner down, okay? So my partner from here, the best way that she can look to start to escape is to go into stacking positions, where she can physically sit up towards me, convert it to a bottom juji, get up, and now start stacking and using body weight to start making it difficult for me to go in and finish my partner. So the central problem associated with a top juji is ways to keep my partner down. And depending on what juji we have, we'll use either a top or a bottom hand post to do this in combination with our cross face leg and other various threats of submissions that we'll look at as we progress in this instructional. So the main central problem associated with top juji is, how can I keep my partner down? How can I keep her belly up, facing towards the ceiling, and not applying body weight to me? When I'm in a bottom juji, the central problem associated with this is, how can I keep my hips up, okay? From here, if my hips start to sag and my partner starts to posture from this position, and now from here, she can slip the elbow from within my hips and bring her elbow out, now I've lost the juji. So from here, my whole thing is not how can I keep my partner down. If I can put my partner back down, it's great, but if I can't always do that. So the question is, how can I keep my hips up? So from here, I can put myself into positions, which we'll go over later, with our leg and knee position and things like that, where even if my partner goes to posture up and I have no hands, when she goes to stand up from here, she goes to pull out, even with no hands, she can't pull that elbow free. And now we can go in and start to get our breaks. So we approach these two jujis differently. The central problem when I have a top juji is, how can I keep my partner down with their chest facing up? When I'm in a bottom juji, the question is, how can I not keep my partner down, but how can I keep my hips up high enough and stop my partner from pulling the elbow free from within my knee line? Alright, so now they're going to be very different types of jujis where our leg position varies, where our leg positions vary, and it's going to be very important from these positions that you understand what your opponent needs defensively to escape and how you can stop those defensive reactions. And when you start changing leg position, everything completely changes. So the different types of jujis are actually very important, and there are pros and cons to each one of them. We have a quarter juji, where from here I have one leg on the near side of my partner's body, and then from here we have a leg over our partner's shoulder on the far side. All right, so you usually see this. This is usually the easiest kind of juji to get into, but because I don't have wedging on the far side of my partner's body, and I don't have the ability to cross my ankles, it's the easiest to enter a lot of times, but it's the weakest as far as control and breaking goes. So you have a quarter juji like so that you normally see where people are up on their sides, and you fall into quarter juji like so, and you start going into attack. So it's a pretty easy juji to enter into, but the drawback is that you don't really have too much control of your partner. So you generally enter in with a quarter juji, and you switch to a more powerful finishing position with the legs. You have a full juji, like so, where we have our leg across our partner's body, two legs across our partner's body, and our partner has an arm between our two legs. Okay, so you can be in a full juji here, where you can switch to full jujis like so, where you still have legs across the body, and we have that arm between our two legs. So we have a full juji here, which is good juji, a little bit stronger, a little bit harder to get to, but nonetheless it's kind of middle of the road as far as ability to enter into and ability to finish from. We have a three-quarter juji, which is a little bit harder to enter into and harder to feed to once you're actually in a juji, but you have good success here because you have good leg position. It's hard for your partner to get roll out. You can play a dilemma game between triangle and armbar, and you can start to get real good results from here. So harder to enter into, but very robust in terms of controlling and breaking. You have pillow juji, where I have a foot or 2 feet here under my partner's head, where I physically have my partner's head on a pillow. So when she goes to roll out, it's hard, her head gets trapped, and we physically put a wedge underneath our partner's head. Okay, this is a good option for when our partner tries to go into rolling escapes and tries to sit up, and we can counter defensive reactions from here. We have our scissor juji, where we have a wedge here underneath our partner's head, and we have a cross-face leg over our partner's head like so. So when she tries to roll out, the pillow foot stops her, and the cross-face leg stops her from sitting up. Okay, so this is a very good finishing position, but again, hard to kind of feed into from initial entries. And then we have shoulder senkaku. We have shoulder senkaku top side and shoulder senkaku bottom side. Shoulder senkaku's top side is when I physically lock my legs here above my partner's shoulder. So that when my partner goes into a defensive reaction and goes to clear my legs, I can switch to top side shoulder senkaku. And of course there are pluses and minuses from here. I don't have a cross face leg, so my partner can sit up if I'm not doing things right, but very good finishing position indeed. It's hard to feed into, and you don't really want to feed into these positions too much until you have your partner's hands unlocked, because there's no cross face leg, so she can sit up, and this is really a good finishing position for after you separate your partner's hand, then she goes into a defensive rolling escape or tries to sit up and you already have the arm extended. Then we also have shoulder senkaku bottom side, where from here my feet switch and I lock my feet underneath my partner's shoulder, and I have bottom side shoulder senkaku. So again, from here, when she goes to start sitting up, I can start splaying my legs open. When she goes to roll, I have a wedge underneath my partner's head, next to my partner's head, so she can't roll from here. And now from here, we can go in and start breaking. So we have a couple different jujis from here, and how I'm going to act offensively and how she's going to react defensively will be completely contingent upon my leg position. Okay, so the breaking mechanics are all pretty much the same from here. They have slight variations, but the leg position is what is really key. So we have quarter juji, we have full juji, we have three-quarter juji, we have pillow juji, scissor juji, top side, and bottom side shoulder senkaku. And we're going to run through all of these today. All right, so now let's look at defensive grips of my partner. When she's lying down, she has a wide variety of different grips that she can use. She can use a 10-finger grip, like so. Now, she can go near hand on bottom, or she can go near hand on top. So she can go 10-finger grip and she can switch the grips. Okay, and the grip switching is important because understand that if your partner uses one grip or the other and you try to separate the hands and you push them into one another, the grips are strong. Okay, so if I push in this direction, the grips are strong. Whereas if I pull away in the grips, it's pretty easy to separate the hands. So for example, if she has her near hand on bottom and I'm pulling in this direction, I'm not gonna say you can't separate it because it's the extension of your body versus the lock of your partner's hands. So you can still separate the hands, but if you're dealing with someone uber strong and you're trying to pull the hands apart, it'll be much better from here to pull away from the grip rather than pulling the hands into one another, okay? So she can go 10-finger grip with 2 different grips, either near hand on top or near hand on bottom. She can go palm to palm, either near hand on top, near hand on bottom. She can go wrist to wrist, near hand on top or near hand on bottom. She can play either grip. When I separate the hands, she can go hamstring grab, and she can physically grab inside of her own hamstring like we looked at in armbar defense instructional. But from here, it's hard for me to actually separate the hands, so we have to actually figure out how to do that and clear this hamstring grip. And then, of course, she can go into the classic full figure of 4, where from here, she has a figure 4 at the arms and a wedge underneath my hamstring, like so. This is classically and historically the hardest grip to deal with, the best defensive hand position most of the time in general to keep your arms safe. Okay, so she has a pretty wide variety of grips here. 10-finger, palm to palm, wrist to wrist. You can switch those, top and bottom. She can grab the inside of the hamstring, and she can go full figure of 4. All right, so now let's look at top hand and bottom hand posts when we're in these Jujikatami positions, where we can start off, and we can always use Kimura grips if you want to look to start changing to our partner's back, or if we want to start switching our leg position. So we can use Kimura grips, and there's going to be times when we do use Kimura grips. But in general, we're going to have either a bottom hand post or a top hand post. And now, this can kind of get tricky, and whether you have a top hand or a bottom hand post is going to be contingent upon a few different things. Number 1, what is your leg position? Number 2, what is your partner's defensive hand position? Number 3, which direction is your partner trying to escape? Okay, is she trying to come up and stack you? Is she trying to go into a hitchhiker escape? Is she trying to bridge over your leg? What is she trying to bring knees inside? What is she trying to do from here? Okay. When I go bottom hand post, understand that in general, it's an easy thing for me to stop my partner from coming up towards me and stacking me. So when she goes to pendulum up, from here, we can post the hand, and it's hard for her to start stacking me and coming up towards me. When we go top hand post, it's easy for me to stop my partner from bridging and getting her elbow to the opposite hip to start going in and start going into rolling escapes. Okay, obviously if I want to break her on the right side, I want to go right elbow versus my right hip. So her first defensive reaction will be to bridge her elbow to my left hip, get my knees pointing in that direction, and then go into a rolling escape. So when she goes to bridge from here, the top hand post will make it more difficult for her to do so. So in general, if I see my partner's escaping with either a situation where she tries to bridge over my legs, like if she has a full figure of 4, and she goes to bridge and open up my legs, the top hand post will aid me, because when she goes to give that initial bridge, it makes it hard for her to do so. But because I have no bottom hand post from here, when she goes to sit up towards me, it makes it much easier in a general sense. Whereas if I have a bottom hand post sitting up towards me is easier, or easier to stop, but it's harder for me to stop her bridging in the opposite direction, and then from here going over my legs or going into a rolling escape and starting her defensive reactions on that side. So when I play with this top hand and bottom hand post, it's going to be contingent upon what my partner's trying to do, where my legs are relative to the Jujikatami positions, and where my head is sitting on my partner's body. Am I leaning towards her head, or am I leaning towards her legs? From here, if I have a top hand post, I know that my partner can't bridge in this direction, so she's going to start to sit up. But if I'm leaning all the way towards my partner's head, when she goes to sit up from here, even though I don't have a bottom hand post, my head is off center, so it's harder for my partner to set up. So this kind of gets tricky, where I can go top hand or bottom hand post, and I can change my head position to make it harder for my partner to go into defenses as she would normally do if I had a top hand or a bottom hand post. Okay, so it gets kind of tricky, but we're going to run through these different leg positions, different hand positions, and we're going to look at top hand versus bottom hand posting and where we should be falling towards our partner's head or towards our partner's legs, and when to use which hand position, top hand versus bottom hand post, and how to position our bodies perfectly to have the greatest amount of success at separating our partner's hands and going into submissions. Alright, so now we're going to look at the 3 different escaping directions my partner can look to go. My partner can look to escape by stacking me, which is where she can go in, look to start sitting up from here. She can stack me, she can apply body weight, and then she can use different body and leg and hand positions to start going in, and then bring her elbow free and pulling the arm out. So she can stack me, she can go into a rolling escape, where she can roll until I lose the elbow, and then from here she can come up and start moving out and away and slip the elbow free. She can do things where she moves again up towards the head, where she doesn't particularly start with a rolling escape, but maybe she bridges over the leg first, and as she bridges over the leg from here, I try to go in and start extending the arm, and then she goes into a rolling escape, or she combines it and she starts coming up towards me and goes into a stack. So she can go into rolling escapes, she can go into stacking positions, and she can combine these two, and she can also go into situations where she turns into me and starts bringing her knees inside my legs and starts trapping my legs in various ways, where she can go in and start getting control of my ankles, split my knees, and now she can pull the elbow out. And she can do this in many ways. Where from here, if she's 10-finger, for example, she can wedge her elbow underneath my leg, she can take her legs up, and now from here she can go in and start opening up my knees and slipping the elbow free and bringing everything back to the inside position. So she can come up on top of me and stack. She can go into rolls, like so, and then from here either come out, or if the roll fails, she can come forward and then stack me, so she can combine stacking and rolling, and she can turn into me and bring knees inside, and now split my knees and free the elbow. So our job as the offensive person is to understand which kind of escape my partner's trying to go into, and then counter effectively. And understand that this gets very, very complicated because my partner can use all 3 of these in conjunction with one another, and start with bringing knees inside. That fails. She tries to go into a rolling escape. That fails. Now she's on top of me. Then I knock her back over. She goes right back into a rolling escape. And you get like these 5, 6, 7 sequence moves where your partner's using all 3 of the escapes, and then you have to be able to follow efficiently and follow her through, get control, and put her on breaking point and finish her submissions. All right, so now we're going to look at just playing a dilemma game whenever we can. And so obviously everything we do is based around dilemmas. So whenever I have the choice to go into situations where I can attack not just a triangle or not just an armbar, but an armbar and a triangle, or situations where I can put myself in triangles and then go in for triangle armbars or tri-mores, things like that, is always going to be better. So when you look at the staple of my juji game, it's always feeding from a situation where I have just the option to go into an armbar, and I can feed, most of the time I go to, is feeding to a 3/4 juji. Because now, we can go into the juji, and if at any point my opponent tries to stack me from here, she comes onto triangle transitions. And now I can play a genuine dilemma game between going from armbar into triangle, back to armbar, and we can play these together with one another. So whenever I have the choice, I play a dilemma game rather than just a problem game. And the best way to play a dilemma game from here is feeding from a quarter juji or a full juji or whatever kind of juji you're in, and going in and getting to that 3/4 juji, at least until you separate your partner's legs. So if at any point the main danger that she's going to present to me, her highest chance of escape with 2 skilled people is by stacking me and putting body weight. And so when you play a dilemma game, when you go to 3/4 juji, this immediately takes away her best method of escape, which is stacking me. Because the second she goes to come up and stack me, she comes onto triangle variations. And now from here we can go in and start playing a dilemma versus just playing a problem. All right, so now we're just going to do like a little general overview like we always do of how we're going to approach this instructional. Okay, and I know a lot of you guys have seen like reviews and stuff. A lot of you guys reorganize it and watch it however you want, which is fine. I just do it the way that it makes sense to me and the way I think that it makes sense to most people. But obviously you guys can learn differently than me, so feel free to organize it however you want. We're just going to work through juji progressions, and we're going to start with a quarter juji, like so. And we're going to go through the quarter juji in its entirety. So we're going to look at grip breaks first. So we're going to go through all the grip breaks, 10 finger, wrist to wrist, palm to palm, etc. And we're going to look to finish our partner. We're going to fall towards the legs first, then we're going to fall towards the head, and we're going to do everything from a top juji first. Then we're going to look at our partner goes into belly down positions where she either goes into a back roll or she stacks me, finishing from a bottom juji, returning my partner down to the floor from the bottom juji and getting my partner back into this position, and then going into other subsequent leg lock entries or whatever the case is, other submissions, my partner slips the elbow free. So we're going to go through one juji at a time, and then we're going to go, the second we do all of a quarter juji, we're going to move to a full juji, then a 3/4 juji, then a pillow juji, then a scissor juji, then shoulder senkaku, top side, bottom side, shoulder senkaku, and then we're going to get into the most advanced stuff, which is following a roll, transitioning through strong defensive reactions and following a person through rolling escapes, through stacking. And we're gonna get like realistic sequences on, for example, I'm in a 3/4 juji from here. I separate my partner's hands. She goes to start bridging her elbow to my hip, like so. Now she goes to start rolling. We switch to a bottom side shoulder senkaku, but I miss my knee position. She comes up, and from here, as she goes to start stacking me, I rotate belly down, I roll my partner through, then we switch to a scissor juji, and now we can go in and finish our partner from there. So we're gonna go into really advanced stuff at the end as we get through all the jujis by themselves first. Then we're gonna look at how we can combine sequences and transfer from juji to juji, and when, why, and how to transfer into different jujis contingent upon your partner's defensive reactions. So we're gonna go through quarter juji, the whole juji first, top juji, bottom juji, then we're gonna go full juji, 3/4 juji, and so on and so forth until we start getting more and more advanced as we go. And then at the end, we're gonna be following people through 5, 6 transitions and getting to a finish.